what is it, Forkadir with a little bit of the theme from Rocky worked into it. Okay. Okay, so this video is called Everybody Thinks It's Their Right Hand, and it is true that the right hand is very important in bluegrass and flat picking guitar. It's very true because your tone comes from your right hand, your volume comes from your right hand, whether that's soft or loud, it comes from the right hand, and then your rhythm comes from the right hand most of the time. So your timing's over here. But sometimes people neglect the left hand and miss things over here. So I'm going to show you a couple things that people miss with their left hand, okay, with their fretting hand. So one is people flatten that finger out. They'll like kind of flatten their fingers out. What's wrong with that? Well, you need strength. There are some chords where you do actually do that, like a B chord or a B flat chord, but you need strength, and an arch is strong. So that is how you want to play guitar 95% of the time. Okay, so none of this, arches. Okay, so that's one. Here's another one. A hammer-on and pull-off are not opposites. What do you mean a hammer-on and a pull-off are not opposites? They're not. They're not opposite motions. If I do a hammer-on, they're from D to E. And I do a pull-off, it's not a hammer-on in reverse. If I just take my finger off, I don't get a note. I have to like pull the string down towards the ground or flick the string up towards the ceiling to get a sound. So it's not an opposite motion. So a lot of times people make a mistake with they'll do a hammer-on and they'll do a pull-off and you don't get much of anything. So you have to really practice how can you get an equal note with a pull-off as to a hammer-on, because it's not going to be the same thing. Okay, so number 3, when you pull off from a closed note to another closed note, you have to start with both fingers down. So if I'm going to pull off from, let's say, F to E, I can't start with this finger and then just try to switch them really fast. You won't get a clear sound. You have to start with both notes down and then reveal the E underneath the F. Okay? Now, if I'm doing this, like E to D, well, the nut is already holding the note, so I don't even have to worry about it. But from a closed note to another closed note, I have to have both fingers down before I do the pull-off. So you might have practiced for a long time on a song and haven't done that, but it won't really have the clearest sound. So you might have to go back and rework some things to get that right. Okay, another thing that people do is they put their finger in the wrong place in the fret. The note is supposed to come off of the front of the fret. Well, if you get halfway back here, you're going to get a buzz. So I always say the fret's like a starting line to a race. You got to get right up to it without touching it or going over it, and that's where your best note is at. That solves a lot of problems right there. If you're playing down here, get all that buzz, well, that's no good. Already it's a cleaner, more pure sound. Okay? And then the last thing, it's really important to synchronize the two hands. So not only does there have to be rhythm in the right hand, there has to be rhythm in the left hand. And a lot of times, those two things have trouble synchronizing. Even if you played for a long time, if you pick up the guitar and you've been off a couple days, that's one of the first things to go, is the synchronization between those two hands. So one way I like to work on that is I just play a steady stream of notes over here, 3 notes in a row over and over. And I'm listening and trying to get those two things to line up. I might do it that way, I might go the other way. And I might use different combinations of fingers somewhere on the guitar. And that helps me to line that up. So if it's off, it sounds like the notes are spitting like this. That's what it sounds like. It's like, well, if you hear that spitting sound, then you know it's out of sync, okay? So you need to address that, okay? So there's several different things to help your left hand. In terms of don't let those fingers collapse. You need arches. In terms of the pull-offs are not opposite motions from a hammer-on. You got to figure out how to get a pull-off sound. You got to figure out how to get a hammer-on sound. It's not just taking your finger off. In terms of where you place your finger in the fret, so it doesn't buzz. And then in terms of the synchronization. And if you do those things, there's several different things there, but if you work on each one of those, you're going to be a cleaner player. It's going to sound better, and your audience is really going to enjoy it, okay? So I'll play one more time. I'll play that Fork-a-Deer one more time. Let's see what happens. And we'll call it a day. Fork-a-Deer. I have no idea where that ending was coming from or where it was going. I also might have laughed so hard that let's just polish it up there. Let's just say that. Have a good one.